Eiza González, welcome to Live from Bed.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here.
I'm so happy you're here. So this show is called Live from Bed for a reason, because I think everyone, I mean, it's for many reasons, but I think for one, we would all rather be in bed. But if you weren't doing this interview right now, where would you rather be?
Oh, wow. I'd be in bed with my mom right now. I
Ooh,
think we'd
that's
be ordering
nice.
some breakfast. What time is it?
I don't know, 12:42.
Brunch.
Okay.
I'd be ordering some brunch. I've been watching movies with my mom
That's so
a lot in
nice.
bed. And so we've been chilling. So it's been a good mom and daughter sort of bonding time. So I've been spending a lot of time with my mama.
Does she live here?
She lives here now.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
So you can like spend all day with her.
I do. I spend all day. Yesterday we had an amazing, very sweet day. She really wanted to go buy flowers so she can kind of do a garden in my garden. Because she
Bless.
just moved in with me for like a few weeks ago. And she's like, I want to go. She didn't want to tell me. She's like, I really want to go buy flowers. I was like, let's go. So I took her to Rolling Greens in Culver City, and she was having a field day because it's like 3 stories of just trees, succulents. And she was like shy at the beginning. And then I was like, girl, let go. And then I left.
There is a little bit of a sticker shock at Rolling Greens.
Yeah.
It's expensive.
It's expensive, girl.
but they have good shit.
But they do. And so then after like an hour, we were there for like 4 hours, just like picking plants, and she loves it. So it was amazing. And then we came back home and we replanted them together. It was
That's
really nice.
so nice.
Yeah.
My mom during the LA fires moved in with me, and it was a mixed bag of an experience.
Yeah. I mean, always.
Holy shit. Like, I did not realize how quickly I could revert back to like my 13-year-old self.
Crazy, right?
I mean, my mom, God bless her soul, was doing my laundry machine is like right next to my bedroom.
And it's like 6 in the morning. You're
No,
like, why?
6 in the morning.
Why?
I was like, Jade, patience. I was like, you're undoing years of therapy in real time.
Really though, that's how
know?
I've been feeling. It's actually fascinating because I haven't lived with my mother. I've been an independent child for most of my life. I mean, I started working when I was 14, and then I left
Wow.
my house at 17, and I never lived with my parents ever again.
Mm-hmm.
And so being with her 24/7 has been sort of interesting in a way that it's like jarring, insane, terrifying, a horror film 24/7. It's like looking into a mirror. Too.
Yeah. And I feel like I have 3 siblings, and all of them were like, oh, no one could have done that but you.
Same.
Like, it's just a unique experience. Like, you have to.
She's gone. Is she gone?
Yes.
I wonder
Thank
why.
God. I know. No, truly. I was like, Mom, I love you. So I was really proud of
You
myself.
gotta go.
I didn't pop off, but I
Wow.
did. I was like, okay, like, she wanted to reorganize my entire house. She needed to know where everything was. She was like, at first I was like, make it your home. Like, this is, you're here. Like, I was like, we need to be welcoming. At the end, I was like, okay, maybe we need to dial back the welcoming a little bit.
My friend was saying that, she was hanging a lot with her mother as well. And then, I don't know, inherently we're just like, Mom, don't say that. Oh, Mom, don't do that. And then someone was like, she's old, like enough for you to never change her. So
Right.
let her be. And I was like, you're right. And then I just was like, let her be and be incredible, but also incredibly annoying.
Exactly.
And so you sort of see, and it's fascinating because the more I've sort of pulled back and worked on my patience and really trying to grow my relationship with my mother to a different level, because I've always had this sort of best friend / bickery relationship with my
Yeah.
mother.
Me too.
And now I'm in this stage where I'm just way more of an adult, and I'm like, I gotta balance my emotions. Like, this is a lesson for me. I need to
Yes.
sort of stop getting triggered to this teenage version of myself.
Yeah.
And really digest and process differently. And so it's been actually pretty massive for me. Like
Yeah.
a very learning, profound, deep experience. And I really am like, okay, everything happens for a reason. That's the reason why we're living together right now.
No, for sure. Like, I am always like burdened by knowing that she won't be here forever.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm like, okay, as annoyed as you are right now,
You
like,
gotta cherish these moments.
Right.
It's like you never know.
but she makes it hard to cherish.
Yeah, you're like, Mom.
I'm like, oh my God, like, it's so crazy. However much work I can do in therapy, there's nothing like your mom that can bring you right back down to like
They're set
middle
in their
school.
ways, girl. And
Oh my
wait,
God.
we're gonna be worse. That's what my mom
I
says. She's like,
know.
you're worried about me. You're gonna be so much worse.
I know it. And I can't wait to tell my kid, like you were saying, like, oh, your mom's already set in her ways. Like, my mom always said that to me. She was like, I'm cooked. Like, I can't can't change anymore. I want to get to that point because I'm always trying to change myself and work on myself.
And then to be in a place that I'm like, I gotta do
me
nothing.
too. I want to be like just that radical self-acceptance of like, take it or leave it, babe.
I wish I had that too, actually.
Right?
I'm slowly stepping into it though, because I
Yeah.
used to be, yes, Taco.
Sorry, he
Do
would
you
really
agree?
like to sit
Come
with
here.
you.
Come here. I would love to have you here.
Come
You
on,
can
go,
do it.
Ko.
You can do it. 1, 2, 3. Do it. Do you
He's
like,
like,
a
I'm
help?
old.
Do you like help or do you not like help?
Come on. He doesn't mind help. Okay, you just sit there, Ko. Enjoy it. He's a big man. 34 pounds of love, baby. Here, I got him. Come on. You know, he's like shaped like an ottoman. So he's like, okay, we got you. We're all on board.
I think I might kill him in the process of trying.
Okay, you go there.
Oh, he's so
Okay.
sweet. Also, he doesn't bark. He just goes.
Oh no, he just.
He's a growling old man.
Yes.
No, but I'm sort of stepping into this stage of my life where I'm like, I'm sort of more in my radical no. I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, I don't know if it's lack of patience mixed with ain't nobody got time for that. But when I just can't put up with something anymore, I'm just like, oh, you know what? This is it. Like,
Yeah.
if you like it, great. If
Exactly.
not, amazing. Like, and don't get me wrong, I love personal growth.
Yeah.
I'm actually quite obsessed with personal growth. I
too.
think it's fascinating that we can kind of evolve as human beings constantly. And I've seen such dramatic change within myself in the past 15 years that I'm always curious, but it also gets to a point where you're just like, gotta be like, this is it. Like,
Right.
and I'm not going to be a complete different person for someone else or for, even for friends, partnerships, whatever it is. I'm going to be the way that it is. And it's not like take it or leave it, but kind of take it or leave it.
Totally. Like I just noticed it comes with like a little bit of a frustration, right? Because you're like, make yourself comfortable, Ko.
So adorable. Oh my God.
No, he's like never not on me, so he's like I have to be on you at all
so
times.
cute. You look like a Star Wars character.
Right? No, he really does. He's like an Ewok.
So cute to be Ewok.
But I just find like I get frustrated sometimes because I'm like, why couldn't this? It's not even like it is confidence in a way, but it's kind of this like radical self-acceptance or just like maybe not even so radical, but like 2 days ago, right? I like didn't fit in jeans that I fit into 2 months ago. And just like the way that would have sent me into
A spiral, yeah.
a spiral. And
Yeah.
now I'm like, okay, what other pairs of jeans can I wear?
Moving
Like,
on.
But it comes so late. Like I look back at pictures of myself when I was 25 and I'm like, bitch, it was like, you were so cute. But
and then it makes you think, why didn't I get there earlier? And you kind of get
Right.
frustrated with yourself and you're like, I've sort of always been sort of smart. Like,
Yes.
I've always had a similar thinking, but it is something that comes with maturity and it's so silent. It's such a silent growth that it just kind of slowly seeps in and you
Exactly.
start getting there. But I agree. I feel the same way. Things that would have sent me into a spiral, now I'm like,
who
whatever.
cares?
I move on so easily.
I know. And you're like, where was that voice like 10 years ago?
Totally.
Completely. Okay, so what is your least favorite interview question?
Oh my God.
Because you do a lot of these, and I'm just like, I
Yeah.
feel like you hear a lot of bullshit.
That's a great question. I've never really thought of it because I really respect the interviewer, like in the
Yeah.
sense you're really putting yourself out there and you're sort of being vulnerable. People don't think about that when they're seeing interviews. They're always thinking about the artist versus the interviewer. And especially recently, I've been watching a lot of interviews or junkets or people like
Yeah.
flashing back to older interviews. And it's a very vulnerable, you're sort of like, you got to create this relationship with the person that you feel you're creating a safe space for that person to open up. And it comes with like it has to come in with a warmth, but also professionalism.
Yeah.
It's a combination. So I respect a lot of people that do that. But there is definitely sometimes things that you're just like, I mean, I think that I hate talking about my personal life. Like when they ask me directly about my personal life, like a person specifically, or if I'm dating
Yeah.
someone, I just hate it. And I hate the combination of that with at a premiere or something that is
Yes.
important for you because you're like, wow, there's 1,000,000 things you could have asked me about what I've done or the people that have worked on this project or so many things. And yet you're sort of focusing on something that is irrelevant.
Yeah.
It really is. Like, who I'm dating. I don't know. There's a fixation about the dating life of people. And I understand it because guilty. I'll read about it and I'll be like, oh my God.
But
And
especially women.
I'm fascinated. Yes. And I'm fascinated about what the psychology behind it. I've thought of this thoroughly.
Yeah.
Of what's the psychology? Why are we so, is it like the romantic? I try to see it as a, like a more of a analysis on humanity in the
Yeah.
sense of like, is it our innate need of a romantic story? Is it innate, like this sort of fairy tale thing that we watch in movie? What is it that we're so intrigued by the intimacy or like the private life of
Yeah.
people that I've always found really interesting? And so because I also kind of pride myself to be, throughout my life, I've never spoken about anyone ever. I recently did a podcast and someone asked me about it, and I went into a crippling situation because it really, and most of, for the reason that I just respect other people's privacy
Yeah.
so much. And I just never want to be that person that is like, and granted, I respect people that do. There's people that I'm like watching podcasts and stuff and they're like so
Right.
openly, and I get it. And people watch it and they're fascinated by it. And there's a sense of keeping my private life and my identity because of my work too.
Yes.
Like I need to be malleable into different characters. And so if you know a little too much about me, you're going to have a little trouble watching a movie and really connecting with me. But also simultaneously, I'm not going to stop living my life or looking for love or settle for the person that I'm with just because I'm terrified of what my public life could be. So that sort of duality is always sort of, and so that I think really like, that question, if they ask me specifically,
Yeah.
I can talk about the experience of a personal,
Exactly.
like what I've learned of how I've grown through these relationships, but or what I've learned through life. But talking about other people really
Yeah.
kills me.
Because I feel like you can sense when it's transactional, right? When it's like them just trying to find like a clickbait.
Clickbait.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, you're not asking me because you're curious about the romantic experience.
No, and
or
it does well, and that's the problem,
Yeah.
right? People are curious, as I
Right.
said. People are super curious, and it's happened to me quite a lot throughout my life. And I love to keep that so intimate, and I
Yeah.
would never want to air people's intimacy as my partners or mine, because it's like the only thing I have for myself. Like it really
Yes.
is. I know we've heard this answer a couple times, but throughout life, but it is really the only thing that stays yours.
Totally.
Yeah.
And that's important to like guard, because I agree with you. It can eclipse whatever you're doing.
Totally. And especially if you're an actress and you're supposed to mold into these characters. And some people want to do it,
Yeah.
and it works for them. And
Good for them.
yeah, and it's great. I
Yeah.
respect that as well. But I don't know. For me, it's always been challenging, sort of still looking for love and staying open and not settling for a partner, while simultaneously know that it's going to come with a lot of scrutiny and a lot of curiosity, and being like, should I sacrifice that? Should I just settle and stop that from moving? And so I can get more serious in my career. And a lot of people, this is a very prevalent conversation that happens within the industry.
Yep.
You know it or not. It really is something that is, especially as you said, for women.
Exactly. For women. Like, especially like when we reach past 30, all of a sudden, like they want to talk to us about like when we're having kids and who we're with and what,
Truly.
and it also
Truly.
happens, like, I feel like for you, like you'll be on a red carpet and someone will ask you that. And it's like, Jesus.
Yeah,
Like,
you're like,
yeah,
a little lube in there.
Yeah, it's like a
Jesus
little
Christ.
intense.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, you want me to like just give you my deepest, darkest secret in this like
And I don't know
drive-by?
you.
Exactly.
Like what makes you, it's really that duality of being a public person. And you want to, you also want to be open enough so that audiences kind of have a sense of who you
Exactly.
are and an identity. But it's hard. We live in an oversharing era, and it's okay.
Yes.
It's a stage of the world at the
Yep.
moment, and it's fine. We go through different iterations throughout history that have been pivotal for whatever happens next. But I definitely struggle with keeping the balance with it.
Totally. I think like something that I've learned in the past even 2 years is like there's a difference between secrecy and privacy.
Totally.
And I used to, when I was younger, I was like, oh, if I'm not sharing it, it's because I'm ashamed and I have a secret and I just won't. When in reality, it's like some stuff has to be kept for
Private.
you
Yeah.
either forever or until you like process it yourself.
Exactly.
Like, why would you want to give this unhatched, like, half baked opinion or idea? like, and share that with the world in such a vulnerable way.
Yeah.
You know?
It's like we forget that we're in like it's a stage
Yeah.
and everyone's looking. But I've worked with a lot of people that are very knowledgeable around this and have been very helpful in the process for me because I really struggled at the beginning of my career with how to not let it emotionally affect me
Right.
or minimize my career, because so many times it was like, it really, and it only happens, I hate to say it, to women, where like, oh, she's just with him. It was always, and
Yes.
you're like, or maybe I just like the person the way that you like
Totally.
him as well, or like anyone would be attracted to like, maybe I'm just have a connection with a human being and we have similarities and things that we bond over or experience. Like, how about that? But it always, that sort of, at the beginning, I really, 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 really struggled with it. And dealing with the questions, I really struggled with it. I didn't know. And so I had a real bad, I think in Mexico when I grew up, I had a really bad relationship with the press because Mexico is really sensationalist. It's like a
interesting.
heavy, it's very similar to the UK.
Yeah.
They love the gossip. And it's something that sort of has been normalized within that industry, and people talk about it in like gossip magazines. It's very strange. And I was really opposed to it from the beginning of my career, and I was the only one that wasn't playing nice in that stage of my career. Everyone else was kind of budging, and I wasn't. And so the press really in Mexico really villainized me, and they were like, she's the enemy, because I just didn't want to talk about it. So now is being really tailed and really aggressively attacked by the press. Whenever they would have an inch, they would run with it. And so it really put me in this precarious relationship with sensational press that it wasn't really great. And I really suffered. I really, I like cried many times, like sobbed around this subject matter, because you're sort of like in a confused identity too, because they're presenting you the way they want to present you. And because you're not giving them, the narrative is open. So they can write whatever they want.
Right.
So I experienced a lot of like, I mean, if I would be convinced to say that 100% of the things that have been written about my relationships or love life have been fully lies. Like nothing has been actually accurate. Like the time that I've been dating them, they have no idea. Like they say 2 months, I've been with them for a year and a half. Like they never know, because I keep it really close to chest. But then the other side of the coin is you're sort of at the mercy of whatever narrative they are, and you're not arguing with them. And so you got to be accepting that the audience will believe that story because it's the only story there's out there. So I wrestled with this quite a lot, and then I sort of sat in the place that I felt comfortable with, and I just never walked away from it.
Yeah, because it is really hard. Like when someone's saying something that's completely incorrect or a lie, you're like, wait, I guess the more evolved thing is to be quiet. But you are.
And also painting you in a terrible light on top of it.
And inside you're screaming. And then I think there's another part that's probably like, oh, I'm not playing the game that
I'm
other
not engaging.
that other people are playing. So is there something wrong with me? Is there something wrong with the...
And that pisses them off.
Yes.
When you don't engage, they don't like it because
100%.
they want it to keep going. So it adds, it's more gossip, more gossip, more gossip, more. And the check keeps, and then you're not benefiting out of it.
No.
You're not. And so, yeah, it is. So it's really, and again, I don't judge people because, again, I am a victim of that system. Like I will engage, and if I see if someone dated, like I think it's the fairy tale idea of like seeing people that you love or admire or hot or like you had a crush on. I remember when I was little, I don't know if like Nick Carter, in love with Nick Carter. If he had a girlfriend, I'd be like obsessively Googling if he had a girlfriend. Like if I had any chance, I was like, I'm in Mexico City.
Mine was Nick Jonas, but yes, I totally understand.
And you're just like, why am I obsessively looking for this? I
thought he would see me at his concert and be like,
same.
That girl right
And you're
there.
like, this is it. I'm going to be in the Backstreet Boys tour for the rest of my life. But I don't judge it because I am part of the system. I've fallen for it. But I'm fascinated if I've never really gone into deep like sort of discovery of how it started, but I find it fascinating. I find it like whoever clicked with that idea when they started writing press was a brilliant
100%
mastermind.
Because it's this weird thing where like your career is based on public perception to an
Totally.
extent, right?
Totally.
And but you're like, okay, but I like, and I think people feel entitled, like, right when they see you in a movie, they see you out on red carpets, and they're like, oh, I know her. I'm entitled to know every single thing about her.
Yeah.
And it's up to you to be the protector, the guard of your own life.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's a really, because it can be intoxicating to get into it with the,
Yeah.
you know, the press and be like, I'm doing this. I'm like
Because
vulnerable
it's
about
like your
this.
voice over theirs, but it's just
Yes.
facts. Funny enough that you're saying that. I remember I have a very specific story that sort of opened my eyes to this. I was obsessed with Pieces of Me, that Ashley Simpson reality TV show.
my
Watched
God,
it
I love that
religious.
show.
Did you love it?
Yes.
I was when I tell you that I was obsessed with her, I
Yeah.
was obsessed with her. I'd watch it religiously, would never miss an episode. And then like cut to I start singing, I become an actress, whatever it is. And there was, I don't remember if it was like an MTV thing in Latin America. And she went, and I remember walking up to her and like just talking to her like I knew her
Yeah.
because I've been watching her. So in my mind, I felt like I knew her so well.
Totally.
I knew who her dogs, her names, her family, her sister, her mom. I knew
Yeah.
everything. And then she looked at me like, you know, I was quite probably too personal. She's like, who are you? And it hit me right there. I was like, whoa. I remember I was really young even, and it hit me right there. I was like, wow, this is a mind fuck that you're watching someone. It's a perfect way to trick the mind that makes you think, oh, I know this person so well. And you're like, actually, I know that person doesn't even know who I am.
Right.
Crazy to think that I know so much about her and she has no clue what my name
trippy.
is. It's trippy. And so once I started sort of bleeding into the industry and started working more and more, I started sort of keeping that in the forefront of my mind when people came up to me, because it was kind of scary at the beginning.
Yeah, it can be
I was so
alarming.
young and really jarring. But I always try to remember that personal experience for me, for when people did it. And I knew that their intention was pure and sweet. And they were just excited because they feel like they know you and there's an entitlement, especially when you grow as a child star.
Yeah.
Because they see you grow and they grow with you.
Right.
And that becomes a very intimate relationship, the way that it's happened to Miley or Selena or all these Demi Lovato. These kids, it's all their childhood. Nick Jonas, but at the same time, you know, there's these individual human beings going through a personal experience that don't know us.
Yeah.
Don't know you, don't know me. Maybe they do know us now.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Maybe now, but it is really interesting. Anyway,
Yeah.
that whole concept is like completely about perception and what you think and what they think and what the audience thinks and what you all really are, and sort of being presented in a different way that it's not really who you are, and making a peace with that, because you have two choices. Like, you fight the system and you kind of push through in a way that you're not going to benefit in the long run. And really deciding what's more important for you. And I think that in the long run, I think I decided that my personal experience and my personal privacy was way more important, strangely enough, than sacrificing a certain part of my career if people thought I was not so nice or not intimate enough because I didn't talk about my personal life.
Yeah, it kind of feels like currency to an extent, right? And I feel like when you're younger, I know for me, even just socially with my friends or people that weren't even my friends, when I was younger, I was like, you'll like me more the more I share about myself or the more vulnerable I am.
Totally.
And like then I like would leave those situations and
Angsty.
feel, oh my God,
Me
and
too.
feel like,
I used to feel that way all the time.
yes. And then I'm like, why did I just give you that piece that was so intimate and so personal?
And it's not it's very unlike me to do this.
Exactly.
That started happening to me a lot.
Yeah.
I think with social environments, especially when I started working in the industry, because I had such a fear of not fitting in. But more for me, it was, I've gotten better, obviously, and I think I've been here for long enough, but the language barrier for me was very scary. And it was less about the language, it was more about the cultural barrier. I didn't feel like I identified culturally and people didn't click with me in a certain way. And so I started putting on this persona that was like really fun. And by the way, drank a lot and was like, you know, outspoken and fun and like say off the wall shit. And I can be really fun in that space. But the raging anxiety that I would feel the next day, because no matter what, you're like 20, you're like still trying to fit in.
Yes.
You're still like, and I'm someone that really prides herself for having a real sense of identity. And it was like, in my closed doors, I was like, I don't really drink. Like, this is not
Yeah,
even me.
that's right.
Like, I barely drink, you know,
Right.
like I drink once in a blue moon. I'm not that. I'm actually quite deep person. And I like to have really deep conversations and understand people's like deep persona. And
Yeah.
instead I was like, yeah, presenting myself, and it was out of anxiety and social anxiety, and people don't talk about it. And you see a certain person and you're like, oh, that girl doesn't have social anxiety for that. And it really, we can take a complete different, right? Like a
Yes.
personality. It's crazy.
No, totally. And it's funny that you mentioned the language barrier, because I actually have that written down, because I was interviewing someone recently whose first language is Spanish. And she was like, I genuinely don't feel like the people that I know who I just speak English to know me in the same way that people that speak Spanish
That's
do.
true. That's true.
Right? Like, because you're like, there's a certain part of my personality, a certain, whether it's sarcasm, whether it's like
Gets lost.
Yes.
Yes.
Like, do you still feel like that?
Totally. I see it with people that sometimes I say things and it doesn't land right. And it just really is down to the culture. And I feel, you know, sometimes I'm like, that's unfair. Like, you should have a little bit of a empathy of someone that is trying. Like, if I had a conversation with someone that I know English is their second language, and even though they speak really well, like, it's still, your personality never shines through the same way as it does in Spanish or
I
your
just
native
never-
language. Imagine if
Yeah.
you're trying to represent who you are in
Yes.
Spanish right now.
No, I can't even say my need. You know what I mean? I can barely say like what I'm thirsty right now. Like, to not be able to have a certain like self-deprecating or
Totally.
like
And it doesn't hit. You know, it happens
Yes.
to me a lot after I see interviews. I'm like, oh, it didn't land well. And it gives me crippling anxiety, because I'm like, oh my God, that's such a poor representation of who I am. That's not what
Right.
I meant. And it just, and I will, you know, harakiri myself so
Yeah.
much about it, because I don't cut myself any slack. And so it really kills me when I realize that I feel really bubbly and I feel like my personality is kind of coming through, because that's kind of who I am.
Yes.
And then it doesn't land, and then I say something super awkward, and
Of
and you're like,
course.
oh fuck. And then it's out there and it's spun, and then the press takes it, or like the social media takes it, and you're just like, we need to be a little more empathetic. But yeah, it definitely, I think, to me, that's been the most challenging thing, is sort of translating my personality into another culture, into a different language, and feeling like I'm not sacrificing a ginormous chunk of my identity.
Yes. And like your references and all of that
Totally.
like gets lost. And I swear to you, I was so, I want to say naive, but it's ignorant to that. Like, I
Yeah,
really
because you don't think about it
Right.
naturally, obviously.
like, I just think that, oh, if you know English, you know English. But if I took Spanish for 13 fucking years,
Yeah.
I could not do 1/8 of what you can do in English, you know?
Yeah.
And like, you just don't think that, like, what is being lost in that conversation? Like,
Yeah.
when you can't articulate like exactly how you feel.
And imagine when it comes to relationships.
Oh, I
That's
can't.
even harder. I
Yes.
remember at the beginning of like starting to have relationships with people that obviously Spanish wasn't their first language. I was like, that's, you know, I've never really talked about it, but that's where I owe me learning English the fastest because of that. Because I found myself in this pickle where I was like, it's a precarious place to be. If I can't explain to extent or to a certain detail what I'm experiencing to my partner,
Yes.
I'm living a fake relationship. Therefore, I'm living without a purpose within my relationship. And that's where I sort of full throttle went into really developing really expanding my vocabulary
I
and
can
expanding
imagine.
the way that I was expressing, because I would like hit a wall. I couldn't express myself, and then it would exacerbate relationships, or not really. The person felt confused. It was really challenging,
I
actually.
can imagine, because even like, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but in Spanish there are, and I know in other languages there are
More words.
7 ways to say I love you. I love you as a friend.
Yes.
I love you as an acquaintance. I love you as a romantic partner. In English, you're stuck.
I love you.
I love you. And
I
then the
remember when
person's
people,
like,
I would say like, I love you, people would be like,
yeah,
and they're like, whoa. I was like, oh, we say it all the time. Es te quiero, te adoro.
right.
Like, is te aprecio. It's like all these things. And even though you guys have like a verbatim sort of translation, you don't necessarily in the expression. And so that's what I learned. I was like, oh, you can say like, I appreciate you, but it doesn't ring exactly
Yes.
true to the way that I'm saying it in Spanish.
Right.
And so I had a lot of adjusting.
Okay, so let's go back to 2015. So 10 years ago, you were like 25.
25.
Right? Okay, so
15.
wow. I mean,
I was 15.
You were exactly same.
I was 15.
I fucking wish. What is one thing that you would tell 25-year-old Asa to let go of?
Oh my God. I mean, do you have 7 hours? I think that, I think for me, really, you probably think this is crazy, but to me, it's like to Asa last year, even, not even that far away. I think I've lived in a way the last 10 years of my career that it's been so fast paced.
Yeah.
And I've really thought of it lately in the sense that I went back to back to back to back to back to back on projects for probably half of that decade.
Wow.
We joke about it all the time, but I'm so fucked in the head in the sense that I don't know how to be still for a month. Once I have 1 month off, I like start driving my agents insane and they're like, you're crazy. And I think that it was stemmed from fear of, oh my God, I have this opportunity. I mean, I didn't know anyone else besides Selma that had crossover woman, Mexican from Mexico, that had crossover with a solid, ongoing, continuous career to the US. So you feel that pressure immediately of like, wow, I have an opportunity. I need to jump on it. I can't pass on projects. I can't say no. If I need to learn any other skill, if I have to rub my head and my hand, like I have to do it. And that put me in such a survival state of mind. Instead of, I would simultaneously speak to my, other friends that are actresses or my contemporaries, and they'd be like, yeah, I passed on that, or I didn't do. And I was like, wow, that must feel amazing to have the power. I didn't feel like I could pass on things. I didn't think I was worthy enough of bigger roles. I didn't think that I was, I always felt like I was taking up space.
Yes.
And that if I didn't keep working and working and working, someone would come in and take me away because I don't know. I still am sort of grappling with that whole dynamic. But it wasn't until last year where I established a really good relationship with Guy Ritchie. He built a ginormous part of me in my confidence as an actress. And he gave me the opportunity to play different characters. I mean, I filmed 3 movies with him back to back.
Wow.
And I was so different in all of them. And he really championed me. And then I did Ash. And that was very helpful because Flying Lotus really trusted me. So it started rebuilding my confidence in a way that it was completely different. I'd gone through a really hard time throughout 2018, 17, 18, 19. I went through a really tough personal experience. I had a really bad accident on a set. It just put me in a really dark place. It really turned my career upside down. I was going to do these movies. I didn't do them. I fell off of them. I really had to psychologically work through that while physically being really injured. And it was really challenging. I had a loss of identity. And I think that last year I finally landed in this place where I was like, and I admire other people. I see other people and I feel so jealous in the way that I'm like, they're so confident. I wish I had that. I don't. I really didn't. And I think it's a combination of being an immigrant.
Totally.
It's a combination of second language. It's a combination of, I had a crash course in acting in English. My first film, really, my first American film was Baby Driver. And I was thrown into this place where like opportunities were showing up and you had to learn on the go. And I didn't have the opportunity to go to Juilliard or I went to Strasbourg in a tiny course when I was touring simultaneously. And I was taking all my classes from Monday to Thursday because I really wanted to get better as an actress. And then Thursday to Sunday, I would tour. I was like literally living Hannah Montana life. And then I would go back to school because I was like, I need to grow. I need to better. But I didn't have enough time because I was overworked and overly tired. And so I just didn't have the luxury to live this sort of like slow burn with like an amazing scholarship education and acting. I like broke into the industry after my dad passed away and I like dove into the arts and that was my only saving grace. And that's how my career started. So I was like that I think really determines the way that your career is going to be.
Oh,
It was a
interesting.
survival mechanism versus I'm in the arts because I
Right.
love it. It was like, oh, I feel alive and I can sort of push through life while I'm doing this. And so that all sort of, I think, kind of paints a picture of what my personal experience was. And so I would even say to Eiza last year, like, you can be confident about
Yeah.
even like raising, sometimes I would struggle to raising my voice, like on set, like
I
literal,
get
like
that.
the level of my voice, or when I
Mm-hmm.
would deliver lines, like I was scared of like voicing. Super psychological, very
Yes.
interesting actually. But yeah, it's been a real personal journey and growth for me.
I can imagine. Like, there's so much in there that resonates deeply with me, especially like the raising your voice. You're like,
Hmm.
you know, especially if you're someone that's like averse to confrontation or just feels like when someone tells you something constructive about yourself, you're like, oh my, it feels so much heavier than maybe
Hmm.
it does for other people.
Yeah.
But I just wonder for you, like with that, I think first of all, you're speaking to something that's so relatable to so many people, and that a lot of people are actually don't understand, which is like when you feel like there's room for one of you, right? Whether
You
when you're
nailed
from a
it.
minority,
You nailed it in the head.
so you're
It's
like,
exactly what
I
you
need to
just
say
said.
yes to everything, or there's gonna be another one that's gonna take my place or
You
that
just nailed
wants
it.
it, right?
I remember having a really outer body experience, and this has lingered with me quite a
Mm-hmm.
lot. It was my first Vanity Fair party, and I remember seeing Nicole Kidman with Naomi Watts and
Mm.
Jennifer Lawrence, and they were all sort of chit chatting, gossiping, and laughing, and like best friends, and ha he he. And I remember watching it like, wow, this is amazing. They all get along very, very well. There was no like animosity or
Mm.
competitiveness. But then it sort of hit me, and I was like, right. And this came back to sort of my conversations with my agent. They're like, oh, this actress, they're going to give it to Nicole. The next one, this goes to Jennifer Lawrence. And so I was like, oh, the reason why is because there's space for all, they're all sort of
Yes.
achieving their personal dreams in the best way possible because there's enough space for all of them. They can all,
Mm-hmm.
and there's no animosity because they know that another amazing opportunity is going to come around. And then I realized like, I did go through a stage, especially when I moved here, 2015. I remember there was the first year I was there, it was only two movies that had like prominent ish Latino roles in them. And it wasn't really like, it was Baby Driver.
Mm-hmm.
And we were all killing for it. I mean, it was like,
Yeah.
we
Oh,
were
I can
all
imagine.
we were running to it because it was like one big prominent role in these movies. And there was, and then I think it was Paul Blart, the mall cop. I'm not even joking. Like
Wow.
one tiny, smaller role, and that was it. There was nothing else that year. And we were, and you're sort of like, move, bitch. You know,
Yeah.
like,
No. Of
like
course.
white chicks scene movies. Like
Yes.
you're sort of like,
Yeah.
and then you're like, no wonder you feel like you got to kill. And
Mm-hmm.
so I'm so grateful that that's changed. It
Yeah.
really has changed. Whether right, wrong, whatever people want to think of it, the way that it's happened, it has happened.
Mm-hmm.
And it has gotten so much better. And there's so many amazing, talented, amazing Latinas that are like killing it, women from all over the world that I admire and respect, that we sort of all started together and we were literally killing for the one role. And now we all have opportunities. But that took a long,
Oh
long, long
yeah.
time. And so your relationship with the industry becomes a little jaded and not as pure and beautiful as it could
Yeah.
be. And I'm not saying that no one else is being they're not
No, of
struggling with
course.
we're all competing for a role, obviously,
Yes.
but there's degrees to it, and it
Mm-hmm.
really affects you differently mentally. It really hits different.
I can imagine completely. And I feel like I've read some interviews that you've done where you're like, people would tell you you're too hot, you're too pretty for this. And like that,
But to that, you know, because that was totally, that really upset me when it got taken out of context. And I
yeah.
learned from like speaking to print versus on like the way I'm talking to you.
Yeah.
What I was saying was there is this archetype tied to specific cultures.
Exactly.
And that was what it was for the Latin women for
Yes.
a long time. That's what I meant. There's an archetype for the Latin women, which is like sexy, spicy,
Mm-hmm.
hot. That's what I
The
meant. Not that
hypersexualization.
I am, I am so, it wasn't that
I
way.
completely understand
You
that.
under, but it was
Yes.
taken out of context and spun and really put me in a horrible light and made me look like, oh, let's make her look like a narcissist. Look at how she
Totally.
thinks. And I was like, that it really hurt my soul because my intention was to bring light to we've been sort of perpetuating this archetype of women of spicy. Oh, she's spicy because she's Latina. And it's,
Yes.
we find it funny, but it's not. It's not. I don't identify that way. And you just need to give me the opportunity to come out of that. And I think that, again, a lot of women are doing a lot of, it's a collective effort. I've done this amount in that effort, but that's sort of what I was bringing up. And I really want us to sort of change that mentality around that, because you don't hear like, oh, that Latin man, he's spicy.
Exactly.
He's too hot. Like,
Exactly.
it doesn't really apply both ways sometimes. And I was just like, really? How many jobs do I have to do, or we have to do? You know, I'm playing a scientist.
Yes.
Why is this even a thing? I was promoting a show where I was playing a, nanotechnician, scientist, 1 out of 5, most brilliant out of Oxford University. And that was sort of where it tied of like explaining, oh, we don't just have to do those roles of like the hot, sexy bombshell. We can also play that. But again, perfect example of like taking out of context is spun for a negative, and it breaks your heart because you're trying to bring awareness to a serious
100%.
subject.
And you're like, I never want to open my mouth again, because
And
it's
it creates
just,
fear.
Yeah. So I love when you were talking about, when you hurt yourself physically, and that kind of being a shift in how you approached your work. And I feel like so many of us feel like that, right? Like, especially if we've been through something traumatic, that kind of sends, and if we get busy right after that trauma, right? Like, there's like something in us that wants to stay busy, that wants to
Survival mechanism.
Yeah, because if you stay still, God forbid,
it's going to hit you.
It's going to really hit you.
Yeah.
Is that kind of how you felt?
Yeah, that's what happened to me. Yeah, I had a really bad accident and I ended up in the hospital, and it was really shocking because I used to be very accident prone when I was little, like insane. Like I got bit. That's like a German Shepherd bite.
No
like my
way.
face, my chin. I like used to be. My mom used to joke. I'd be like, "You're standing. How are you in the hospital? Like broken arm, broken leg, all the time."
Yeah.
But then I went through like a stage of being very mindful. I was like, I am very prone to accidents. I don't know what it is, but I am really prone to accidents. So I need to be careful. And so I became really thorough and careful about it. And then my career was really booming. It was happening. Like I had just finished Baby Driver. I was about to get this huge movie and then another huge movie. And I was going back to back to back on these movies. And I fell on a set, on a stunt.
Wow.
And I fractured my collarbones and my ribs, both, and the entire thing. And I was immobile. Very, very traumatic. I was in the hospital. I couldn't move. You can't. It becomes really when you go through horrible experiences. It happens to so many people. You're driving one moment, the next you're missing a limb. That you lose control of your body. I couldn't even shout. I couldn't even wipe myself in the bathroom. Like I was like this, I couldn't stand up from a bed. I couldn't do anything for many, many months. And it really rocked me mentally. I never had to like stay still in a way that I had to really process that. And then all my movies fell apart. Everything else fell apart. My career sort of took a turn. It was like setting up to this thing that I'd worked really hard on. And I was really proud of the amount of work that I put into. And now I was just sitting in a hospital bed for months and months and months and just going through like in my head.
With your thoughts.
Your thoughts. And that was really scary. And I ran towards the other direction the moment that I was like allowed to do. And I started doing a lot of jobs that in hindsight, I don't know necessarily if is what I wanted, but I threw myself into work to survive in a mental space because I was like, I think that if I don't do this, I won't get out of it. Completely. And it sounds silly in comparison to other things and real issues in life, but everything's sort of correct. It's objective and it really marked me, but I'm so grateful that it happened.
Yeah.
I really am, because I learned so much about myself in that process. And to be fair, I was having it pretty easy, to be really honest. Like, and I'm not saying that I didn't work hard for these jobs, as I said before. I did. But it was a different type of hard. It wasn't like the type of hard that I had to experience afterwards.
Right.
Which was a deeper, more profound type of hard. It was really like, oh, you gotta push through up here. Not sing and dance and move and do the thing and prove that I'm talented or whatever.
No, you gotta reckon with
you
what's
gotta
going on
reckon deep.
Yeah.
And find your identity again.
Yeah.
Because I again, as I said, I lost my identity completely.
Yes.
And that was really the most horrifying but beautiful experience I've had.
Mhm.
And it really made me a much better human being.
Mm.
It didn't make me necessarily, my career wasn't where I wanted to. It's struggled ever since. Like it takes time and it's a process. But the most important is it really made me a better person.
Yeah.
It's not that I wasn't a good person, but I wasn't such a good human as I can really wholeheartedly say that I am now.
Completely.
And that I feel very proud of the work that I've done
Yeah, and
emotionally.
completely. No, I love that you say that. It reminds me so much of Ash, the movie, because one of the first things that you say is, "Where am I? Who am I?" And I feel like that is so symbolic for like where you've come and where you're going.
Yes.
Do you feel like this role, because of what you went through, is the most natural for you, or like that feels the most like you?
Well, funny that you connected that. And I think that's very cool that you've thought of that because it means you really thought of what you're asking. You know, I do think that roles come into your life for a specific reason, whatever it is. Really, when I've been sobbing about losing another job and I go end up doing something that maybe I'm not super excited or whatever, and I'm like, yeah, it's gonna be, everyone's like, you should be really excited, and then you sort of are grappling with
Yeah.
like being ungrateful, and you're like, and people, it's been a really challenging time in the industry. I have to
Yes.
say, it's been. COVID, after COVID was the strike, then the writer strike, then the director strike, then the actor strike. It's been really unstable, and I have a lot of friends that have been struggling to get
Yeah.
work. By the way, incredibly talented friends, 10 times more talented than me. Wholeheartedly, I can say that. Really, dude, and it really breaks my soul. So you're in this place where like, what is the balance of wanting to be better and grow as an actor, but also not being ungrateful and lack of thought of being like, I want more, right? And so I again juggle with that because I am someone that wants to grow and wants to be better. And so when I've had jobs that I don't necessarily know why I'm doing them or picking them, but it's intuitive,
Yeah.
it always sort of pays off because, perfect example, Ash. I was coming off of the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare, and I was in a great place. I was like, I felt really creative with Guy Ritchie. I'd pushed myself to do something that I never thought I was able to do, which was do a British accent, right? It's like English is my second language. I've mastered the American
I
accent.
can't even imagine.
Yeah, then go into English with a British accent, do German, speak Italian, speak French. And it was all the time I was like, I'm never going to nail it. But he sort of really believed in me. And that, as I said, really, there's people that have come into my life have changed my life.
Yeah.
It's not been me. It's not been solely me. It's people that have believed in me that has made the difference. And so Ash came around when I was doing that, and I was feeling really motivated. It kind of gave me a second wind as an actress. I came off of Ministry, and I was feeling really like confident, which I hadn't felt that way in so long. And I stumbled onto this script, and I remember reading it. I was like, what's happening? I don't understand what's going on in this movie. It's very confusing and scary, and it needs a vision and this and that. And so I sort of got into creative conversation with Flying Lotus, with Aaron. We figured it out. We sort of were like, we're doing this. We're in. Let's go. And when I got in, I started really getting scared because the deadline of the first day started coming up, and I was like, I can't do this. I can't do this. I have to be in silence, perform this entire movie. And the script is sort of designed in a very interesting way, which people sometimes watch a movie and they don't realize what the script really is and what you're bringing as an actor, right?
Yeah.
And so it was really hard the way that it was designed for the audience to connect with her, because it starts in a foot that you've not had time to fall in love with her or get a personality. It's like it's hot, cold. It's like a cold entry. It's a cold opening, and you're forcing the audience to sort of follow and believe her. But their setup is that she's the enemy, but you have to be likable. But also you have no dialogue for solid 25 minutes of the movie.
Yeah.
And you have to convince the audience to trust you, to feel for you, to feel emotion for you when everything's pointing against you. And that started to really freak me out. I was like, because I think my own insecurities of like thinking that I'm not likable because I think of myself as, for some reason, like unlikable. And I was like, no one's gonna chime for me. No one's gonna
Right.
believe in me. And I started freaking out. And I said to Philo, I was like, I you know, I don't know if I can do. And he was like, you're gonna do, you can do this. I was like, I don't know if I can. He's like,
Yeah.
you can. You're gonna do it. You're gonna be fine. You trust me. Believe in me. I know what I'm thinking, what I'm looking for. And once I started to go through, my God, it was like free therapy, paid therapy, actually. It was amazing because I was able to sort of access these emotions that were so primal in me
Yeah.
and so visceral. You know, it's a very visceral performance, but it's also very, very sort of childlike. There's an
Yeah.
innocence to her because she has no identity. She doesn't know who she is and she doesn't know what she's done. And I somehow really connected to that because of everything that we've talked about. And I was like, oh, this is like a second opportunity to show really her soul. And I made her really vulnerable. And I just felt like that felt right to me. I don't know if it feels right for the world, but it felt right in the sense of she's just a vessel of what it feels like to sort of a rebirth.
Yes.
She's like a phoenix, and it has to pay off at the end. And I think that sort of journey from the first time we see her to the last, she's gone through an array of emotions that you're sort of championing her. And there's one, the last big line I say, I think pays off really well because she's just, it's as visceral as you can get. And you can see her sort of blossoming back to who she was, but while simultaneously being a better version. And it reminds me of that time of my life.
Completely.
Yeah.
No, I'm so excited for people to see this movie and to hear where that came from you, because it is exactly like you described. It is that you feel like for some reason, while the situation is completely unrelatable, you relate to that rising from the ashes.
Yeah.
So you guys are going to love it. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you for having me. You're so
this
lovely.
This was so fun. Thank
Taco,
you.
you're the best.
Taco, you're the best
I
too.
love your little heavy breathing.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys. Thank you for watching.
You.